Thank you for such an auspicious welcome. As always, welcome to the VoiceOver Today audio podcast. I'm your host, D. Foster 3. On this podcast, we have an eye on the culture. We discuss relevant issues, trending topics, and we do our thorough investigative journalism like we're going to do today. You know, at the beginning, the spiel: like, share, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to this platform, WPBmedianetworks.com. Put this particular show in your contacts because we're going to discuss something. Matter of fact, we're going to unpack something that is so relevant. Before we get started, follow us on our social media pages so you know what we're doing. That's Wake Up Global Networks on Facebook, Wake Up Global Networks, WGNINC on X, and Wake Up Global Media on Instagram, and the VoiceOver Pod on TikTok. I want to say thank you so much for all of your support. Have you seen our Friday, the VoiceOver Now podcast? If not, we deal with relevant issues, and it's Friday. It's straight no chaser. If you like it like that and you don't like gray lines, then you want to listen or be a part of the replay crew of the VoiceOver Now podcast, which is uploaded every Friday, 5 p.m. You can view it from your smartphone if you're on your way home on the train, if you're running, if you're in the gym. And then Sunday morning, the Voice of Hope Connection, where we give you an inspirational word to take you through the week. We hope all that we do are blessing you. And this is just a midweek drop-in. You know, this is just a midweek drop-in. I don't really get into details. Like, I'm not going to get into a lot of details on the subject that we're going to discuss today. But believe me, I am going to unpack this story. It's brand new, and it's a lot to unpack. No, it's not the presidential debates. I'm not even going to get into that. Y'all, I'm going to leave that to y'all. Nobody's interested, including me. Did I tell you to like, to share, to follow? The topic of discussion of this podcast today is G.I. Joe said it. G.I. Joe said it. Knowing is half the battle. Knowing is half the battle. Well, obviously, Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins, he didn't hear that. G.I. Joe, he never played with G.I. Joe. He never heard that statement from G.I. Joe, that knowing is half the battle. What are you talking about? I'm talking about something that I've been saying for years and years. And I'm not going to cover all the aspects of this story because there's so much to unpack. I'm going to cover only one aspect of this story today on this audio podcast. Years and years, I've always said, and it's been said, you cannot win the battle with the police in the streets. That is not the play. You will never win the battle with the police on the streets. Come on. Don't you know that, Tyreek Hill? You are a big Dolphin fan. You make a lot of money. But see, sometimes it goes back to the podcast I did several weeks ago when I talked about Serena Williams, where it's self-importance versus self-esteem. And I think on this story, there's a little more self-importance that got him in handcuffs and on the curves. Okay, what are you talking about? First, before I tell you what I'm talking about, I want you to like, I want you to subscribe, I want you to share, I want you to follow, because this is a relevant story. And I'm serious. Every one of us can learn from this. I've been saying for years, you're never going to win fighting the police on the streets. That's what the court is today. You have your day in court. It's best to surrender. I know people call it weak. Well, anyway, what happens? And I don't believe this was a sense of racism. I mean, the NFL is calling for his suspension, for the police suspension. I disagree. Now, the way it was handled, oh yeah, those videos, I didn't think they had to handle it like that. Let me be honest. Let me be balanced. But it could have been avoided, in my opinion. And that's what I do on this podcast. I give my opinion. I want to hear from you. Our email is thevoiceovertheglobe@gmail.com. Leave your comments. Leave your comments in the comments section. On Sunday, September the 8th, Tyreek Hill, you know, he plays for the Miami Dolphins, was pulled over by the Miami-Dade police, number one, because according, and I'm reading from the CNN Sports, according to the article and according to the police, he did not have on a seatbelt and he was going a little bit too fast. So the story goes that when they go to stop him and pull him over, he's on his way to a game. I understand you're important. You're in your car. You're on your way to a game. How dare the police stop you, even though you don't have a seatbelt on, even though you're breaking the law? They roll up, according to reports, to his car, knock on the window, and Tyreek, instead of rolling down the window and being humble, because you'll never win on the street. Then I start this by saying, knowing is half the battle. That's the topic of this. You're never, ever, ever going to win on the streets. And let me repeat that. The courthouse the court of law with an attorney is the place to win. You're never going to win against the police on the street. G.I. Joe says, knowing is half the battle. And so the first thing, according to reports, he says is, hey, don't knock on my window. You're knocking on my window too hard. And I'm paraphrasing. But, I'm going to quote it. Quote, the officer asks Hill why he doesn't have a seatbelt on. Hill doesn't answer and repeatedly says, don't knock on my window like that. Now, I don't know how he was knocking on the window, whether he was banging on the window. But when you, in my opinion, are in those situations, a little humility, even though you may have to eat crow, but you're going to go home at the end of the day. A little humility works out. And the officer asks Hill, why your window up? And he says, don't knock on my window. Give me that quote. Give me my ticket, bro, so I can go. Oh, come on. Yeah, I'm going to be late. In other words, I'm a big star. They're depending on me. I'm going to a game. Do what you got to do. Look at this. Now, come on, y'all. Come on. Now, this is according to CNN Sports. This is what Hill is giving the officer. Give me my ticket, bro, so I can go. I'm going to be late. Do what you got to do, Hill said, before rolling up the window. Now, most of the time when we are stopped by the police, they come and knock on the window. They ask for driver's license, registration, and now insurance card, and you keep the windows down. Now, why do you keep the windows down? You keep the windows down for their safety. They want to make sure that you're not prying for a weapon. And I mean, most of us, even in the wintertime, with the heat on in the car, those people have gotten stopped. Or in the summertime, you keep the car running with the air or the heat, and you keep the window down. Because at the bottom line, you want to get home. It doesn't matter what your position is. Doesn't matter how much you make. At that point, in my opinion, the officer has all of the power. It's your word against his word, body cam and all of that kind of stuff. But we've seen this thing too many times. So again, is this self-importance or self-esteem? I see a little self-importance here. I know you're a big star. I know you think that you should get away with it. But if we have to wear a seatbelt, everybody has to wear a seatbelt. Nobody is above the law. So I go on to read. The officer tells Hill to keep his window down and knocks again, but Hill doesn't appear to respond. The officer again tells Hill to keep the window down. Keep the window down, bro. I can't see if you got a gun. I can't see if you got a knife. I don't care who you are. I'm out here trying to survive. I want to go home to my family also. Keep the window down. Hill rolls down the window slightly and responds. Now, this is according to the article. I hope this is not true, y'all. This is the height of arrogance. Don't tell me what to do. Bro, Hill, don't you know you're not going to win on the streets? Didn't somebody tell you that you're not going to ever win on the streets? You could have got to your game earlier by simply being polite, simply handing your registration, simply handing your license, simply handing your insurance card, in my opinion, and let them write you a ticket, and you go into the game, and then you go fight it in the court of law. You got money, you could hire a big attorney. The officer threatens to make Hill get out of the car at this point, and if he doesn't keep the window down, and then immediately after orders him to get out. In other words, can I interpret that? I've had enough of your freaking arrogance. Get your behind out of the car. I'm going to show you who's in charge here now. I tried to be nice a little bit. Now, I saw the video cam, and I just have to be balanced here. I do not agree how they handled that. I think it could have been handled another way, right? And from that perspective, I can see why the NFL are calling for the termination of the officers and why one is on administrative leave when you see the video. But again, in my opinion, this all could have been avoided with a little bit of humility. Nobody likes to get stopped with the police. We're all busy. We're all on our way somewhere. But here's where G.I. Joe says, knowing is half the battle. Knowing what, D. Foster 3, that you're never going to win on the streets. Never, ever. It's your word against their word, even with a body cam. And so he tells Hill to get out. And Hill rolls down his window slightly and responds, don't tell me what to do, according to the article I'm reading. The officer threatens to make Hill get out of the car if he doesn't keep the window down. And then immediately he said, all right, I'm tired of your bullshiggity, orders him out. Another officer opens Hill's car door and starts to pull him out of the car, saying, get out. While Hill responds, I'm getting out. Oh, you're getting out now. Oh, where's all of that? Where Where's all of that, who you are, and don't knock on my window, bro, and bro, give me what I tell you, you will never win. And this is a lesson for all of us. That's why they have courts. That's why you have your day in court. Sometimes you have to eat crow, even though you know you were right, but you're never going to win. They have the badge, they have the gun, and they have the blue shield. So understand, take this as a lesson. I'm going to unpack this. I'm sure it's more. And so Hill gets out. Hill is heard saying, I'm getting out. I'm getting out. I'm sure you are getting out. At that point, Hill, the officer says, too late. Too late. In other words, you pushed me. Now, again, let me say, I did not agree the way they handled him. I think it could have been handled a little different. The two officers are seen pushing Hill to the ground with another officer standing over him. Hill is heard saying, I'm getting arrested multiple times. And the officer physically retaining him. Yeah, that's the part I didn't agree with, how they physically, if you look at the cam, retain him, saying, when we tell you to do something, you do it. You understand? This is the officer, according to this article. You understand not what you want, but what we tell you. Really? Really, officer? I mean, you power struck like that? You're a little beeping confused. All right, bro, take me to jail. Bro, do what you got to do, Hill says. We will, the officer responds. So, again, I'm not going to unpack the whole thing, but my point in covering this one point, all of this could have been avoided with a little humility. And in the words of G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle. And I'm telling you, and I am telling you, you will never win the battle on the streets. Have your day in court. So he goes, and he goes to the game, and yes, bravo. Hill scored a stellar 80-yard touchdown when they went over the Jackson Jaguars, and when he scored, if you saw it, he put his hands behind his back, I guess to say, now in your face, police. But it's still not over. After the game, yes, you won the game, but you were handcuffed. You were in a scuffle. You still have to go to court, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a lot of lessons learned in this. And G.I. Joe said, knowing is half the battle. Now, there's a debate between the NFL and the police union. Let me read what the president of the police union said. And I'm only reading this to be balanced. A police union criticized Hill as an uncooperative. Attorneys for one officer who was placed on administrative duties amend a review, called the decision premature, and call for the officer's immediate reinstatement. In turn, the Dolphins organization released statements criticizing the officer's conduct, and Hill's agent called on the officers to be fired. Hill told CNN he remained confused by the encounter. Tariq, you remain confused by saying, bro, don't knock on my window? Tariq, you remain confused by rolling up your window? Bro, you remain confused by saying, give me my ticket, do what you got to do? Bro, you remain confused? Nah, I'm not buying it. I told you it ain't about black or white. It's about right. And also there's information where Hill said that he couldn't comply immediately because he had just had knee surgery and knee injuries, and all of that comes out later. But I'm going to still unpack this story. Listen, the moral of the story is you will never, ever, ever, this conversation, if you don't learn nothing else, you will never, ever, ever win the battle on the streets. You take it to the suites. You take it to the courtroom. Like, share, subscribe, follow. Check us out this Friday. I'm going to be doing, a lot of people said they really enjoyed my spiritual teachings. I'm going to be mixing my podcast and doing some spiritual teachings along with still touching the culture, because I'm coming back to this probably week after next on my Friday podcast. There's a lot to unpack, and I'm sure this story will unfold, but it's very interesting because this falls right in line with my podcast several weeks ago, self-importance or self-esteem. I see a lot of self-importance that got him drug on the street. And I don't agree how it was done. It could have been done a different way. But again, arrogance just doesn't pay. Until next week, this is your host, D. Foster 3, saying you have a voice. Keep lifting it. Peace.